What is going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new video. And today we're going to be talking about why Anti Mage has a 52% win rate in Dota 2. Now, this was actually super surprising to me, as I don't see Anti Mage players pretty much at all. So what this tells you is they're picking it into absolutely perfect Anti Mage games for them to be able to get the W, because I still feel like this hero, especially in this brawl tanky meta, definitely doesn't do very good. This hero is still pretty weak, just like he's always been, but there's definitely a lot of potential for Anti Mage players to get a lot of value from this hero and to be able to actually win games. So I'm going to be breaking down some tips for you guys to be able to get a lot more MMR while playing Anti Mage. One of the tips I'm going to be giving you guys is some support pairings that you guys can definitely enjoy playing with Anti Mage. Anti Mage usually enjoys for the lane to be pretty static and nothing too aggressive. If he sees that he can beat into the enemy offlane or burn their mana pool, then he will definitely do that. But if he can't walk up, he's just happy with just CSing and getting away with the laning phase and just getting his farm up. So some of the best supports I have played with Anti Mage are Grimstroke, Venomancer, Crystal Maiden, and Lion. Now, Grimstroke obviously because of Inkswall, and he's just an overall pretty decent laner. Venomancer is actually the best combination I've ever played with Anti Mage. Even though Venomancer isn't the greatest hero, it's just the amount of slows you get just lets you burn the entire mana pool of whatever hero you're going up against, and just that slow damage over time helps you so much in the laning phase, and it's also going to help you in the mid to late game as well. In my opinion, slows and stuns are key to be playing with an Anti Mage lineup, so definitely keep that in mind when you guys are picking Anti Mage. Make sure your supports either have a stun or slow. That way your laning phase will go much better and you don't get absolutely dumpstered in the laning phase, as it is very important for Anti Mage to have a pretty good start. This is the type of hero that if he gets shut down, you're going to have a 20-minute battle fury, so definitely keep that in mind. Otherwise, you're going to be feeding. Now, Crystal Maiden is also very solid. She has that root. She has a little bit of slow as well. Also a very strong laner. Also gives you that extra mana for you to be able to spam blink off cooldown and to be able to spam a little bit more counter spell if you do need that in the laning phase, as it is quite strong, especially if you can return some of the spells back. And Lion is just overall very pesky support, very nice. You both have mana burn, so pretty much that lane is extremely toxic, so it's definitely not going to be a very fun lane for the enemy offlane team. They're not going to have a lot of fun because they're absolutely not going to have any mana at all, and then you have a free hex from Lion and a stun. So these are definitely very strong supports to be playing with Anti Mage, so definitely tell your team to pick these supports and you're going to have a much better time in your games. Now I'm going to be telling you guys what matchups Anti Mage is typically good up against and bad up against. Anti Mage is good versus Medusa, Wraith King, Phantom Lancer, Tinker, and Zeus. These heroes are not the most popular right now except for Wraith King. Wraith King is insanely popular in the meta, and I think that's one of the reasons why Anti Mage has been climbing up in win rate, is because he's being picked so much into carry Wraith King or even offlane Wraith King, because Wraith King can't really function without the shard against Anti Mage. And sure, you can definitely turn that matchup around. It's a lot of commitment from the Anti Mage to be able to kill the Wraith King, as he's still a super tanky strength hero, and Wraith King typically is going Radiance and Blade Mail and such, so it's definitely not a very easy target for the Anti Mage to get rid of. But once you burn his mana pool, he definitely can't do a whole lot of anything. Then Wraith King's mana pool is pretty garbage. And then you have situational heroes like Tinker and Zeus, which aren't played a whole lot, but you can definitely pick it into them and have a really good time, because Zeus just really can't get away from the Anti Mage. And once you have no mana on Zeus, you really provide zero utility for your team, zero damage, pretty much zero anything, because your right clicks don't really do anything unless you went for the right click build with the Zeus hands. It's definitely not that great in my opinion. I made a video about it not long ago, but it's definitely fallen off with that build. That was definitely more of a meme than anything else. And some of the heroes Anti Mage is bad up against is Meepo, Lone Druid, Phantom Assassin, Slardar, and Night Stalker. So that is where my problem comes in with Anti Mage, because Meepo is always pretty prevalent in the meta for Meepo spammers. If they see a hero like Anti Mage being picked and it's not a last pick AM, they're gonna pick Meepo if they know how to play Meepo, obviously, and they're gonna counter you super hard. Lone Druid is really popular in the meta, which is awesome because I love Lone Druid. Phantom Assassin is also really popular. So is Slardar and so is Night Stalker. They're all really popular, and these are heroes Anti Mage definitely struggles up against. Now, I'm not saying Anti Mage can't beat these heroes. It's just a counter matchup. You can definitely win any matchup in Dota, even if it's a counter. It just makes your life so much more difficult. If you're playing up against a Slardar, he's gonna make your life a living hell. There's not much you can do to it. You can't really man fight the Slardar until you have a bunch of items. You can eventually turn that matchup, but early on, it's not very fun for you. Meepo can just definitely gank you off cooldown and absolutely obliterate you. and you won't be able to blink away if he lands his nets. Phantom Assassin could just literally crit you once and you'll die, especially if she goes Divine Rapier. You're gonna get absolutely one shot by her because you're extremely squishy. So that's definitely a matchup you don't want to run up against too many times. And then Night Stalker can easily get on top of you, especially if he buys a Blink Dagger and a Basher. You're gonna be silenced to hell. You're gonna be forced to buy a BKB and a Manta, and that's not what you typically want to go on Anti-Mage. Sure, you want to buy the Manta, but BKB is an item Anti-Mage players typically don't like to go, as they're very greedy and they like to go for item builds like Treads, Battle Fury, Manta, Basher, and then Scotty. But I got an item build for you guys to try, and definitely let me know in the comment section below what do you guys think about this item build. It's Treads, Battle Fury, Harpoon, Scotty, and then you go for a Basher or a Butterfly. That honestly depends on you, but the Harpoon is the key factor because you already have a slow. You can even go Orb of Corrosion for extra slow. You have the slow from the Harpoon. You get the extra pull, so that hero's going to have absolutely no mana. And then if you get a Basher, that hero's not going to be able to get away from you. And if you do that to a support Crystal Maiden or Zeus or any support, it's pretty much any support under the sun or any squishy hero in general, you're going to kill them. The Echo Saber provides a lot of stats, and once Harpoon is built, you are super tanky on an Anti-Mage. These are items that are very beneficial for Anti-Mage to build. A lot of players typically like to go the regular cookie cutter builds, like I mentioned, the Treads, the Battle Fury, the Manta, the Basher, the Scotty, and even the Butterfly. Those are all cookie cutter builds. Try something new, guys. You're gonna have a lot of fun with the Harpoon because every time a hero tries to get away from you and they have a mobility spell, you can either Harpoon them or you blink onto them and then you Harpoon them again, and they won't be able to get away because by that time you would have hit them a bunch of times and either their mana pool is at 0 or it's extremely low. That's a really nice way for you to tank up on AM and to be able to scale into the late game with just a lot more HP and a lot more stats, as this hero even in the late game sometimes feels like you can never man up to any team. That's one of the weaknesses of this hero. It sometimes feels like you can never win the game and you're stuck high ground, which is probably the worst feeling to be on an Anti-Mage. You'd rather be split pushing around the map. It's a really tanky meta, so keep that in mind. You can also build Silver Edge on Anti-Mage. It might sound extremely weird, but you can definitely build it on AM. It's definitely not grief. It's always going to be nice for you to have that extra crit, and if you need to break a hero like Bristleback, you need to break a Wraith King, or you need to do extra damage or be able to get away from people other than your Blink, if they have a lot of silences, you can always go for an item like Silver Edge. It's definitely very situational, so keep that in mind, but give the Harpoon a try. It's definitely a very solid item every time I play Anti-Mage, and it looks like I can get a lot of value and I need to tank up. I will definitely go for Harpoon after the Battle Fury, as you do need to scale. This hero doesn't farm quickly even with Harpoon, so you definitely still need to go for the Battle Fury, as that's what's going to help this hero split push quickly and scale. And you're always going to need that Manta. It's always going to be nice for you to get Manta. It's a very staple item in Anti-Mage's kit just for you to be able to burn their mana pool, and eventually you can even get an Aghanim Scepter. I think Aghanim Scepter on Anti-Mage is very underrated. I definitely wouldn't rush it. I'd get it as the last item for the build, but it's definitely very underrated, as a lot of players tend to not pick it up even in the ultra late game, which Anti-Mage is not a hero you should be playing in the ultra late game. You should not be taking this hero into 60-minute games. I definitely don't feel like his power spikes are there. I think his power spikes are stuck between 25 and 35 minutes. That 10-minute window is where you should be ending the game, because you should be pretty much fully slotted and you should be ready to go. I still don't believe Anti-Mage is a hero for you to be able to take to 60 minutes. It could definitely still work. I'm just saying, more likely than not, you'll end up getting out carried by other heroes. What timings you are aiming for, and get your Battle Fury, get your Manta, get your timings, and push with your team. Don't be afraid to join team fights. Once you have Battle Fury, Manta, don't be afraid to join team fights. You can definitely join some pretty good fights and get a lot of value from your hero. If you have really good mana void targets, you can definitely get a lot of value and get a few pickoffs, and it's going to accelerate your farm greatly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and learned something about Anti-Mage. If you guys want to try out the build, and if you do try out the build, definitely let me know in the comment section below what do you guys think about Harpoon on Anti-Mage. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.